Today's lecture will be over Chapter 25, Section 1, Objectives. Learn about foreign rule and interdependence in India. Number 2, define the nature of India's government and identify some of its challenges. Number 3, understand the basics of India's economy. Number 4, learn about life in modern India. Number 5, explore Indian culture and respect to diversity and religion. So the first thing that we're going to look at is a map of India. If you guys kind of recall, India is going to be very much a prize of the European countries, because what we see is that the European countries here, especially the Western European countries, have been trying to go over the land for a very long period of time to get to India. The reason is that in this area right here, you're going to see a bunch of mountains and things like that. It's very difficult to cross and continue to cross into China and go all the way to the places that the Europeans wanted to get to. India had traded with China for a long period of time, and so what they're going to want to do is that they're going to want to try to get there as fast as they can, and also to be able to carry as much as they can. So a lot of the Europeans for a long period of time had been coming through the African area, go around the southern tip of Africa, as you can see right here, and then they're going to go ahead and they're going to continue to sail right to India. And what they've done is they basically bypassed all of the areas that are kind of over the land. And again, remember, these areas right here, these countries are going to be very much Muslim for a long period of time, and so what you see is they're trying to get away from that, and then if they can go through the boats, they get to India. So the actual European influence is going to be relatively late, because what we see is that India is kind of protected by basically its geographic features right here. Now, India, we want to go ahead, I want to try to zoom in a little bit the best that I can, and I want to show you guys a couple things here. First of all, you're going to see that India does not have a lot of green except for the northern areas. Again, a little bit more difficult with vegetation. If we look at the southern tip right here, we can see that that's a little bit better. But what we see is kind of the light brown, deserts, mountains, things like that. Now, if we go up here to Pakistan, Pakistan is actually, and we'll talk about this in today's lecture, they're going to break away from India right here, because they're going to want to go ahead and they're going to want to be Muslim. And so they break away right here, and that's going to be kind of an area that people of India don't want to go to. You're going to be able to see Bangladesh right here, kind of similar situation. People from India cannot go through Bangladesh. And then what we see is this northern area right here, as you can see, those are going to be those mountain ranges that are going to have such a devastating effect on basically people moving, because they're very, very, very difficult to go across Nepal, Bhutan, places like that. So what we see about India is that people in India have had trouble migrating really starting about the 1800s, because it's been so difficult with the geographic features. And again, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan, the mountain range, people that are born in India relatively going to stay there. Now, of course, the 1900s is a lot different, because we've got different ways of traveling. But as you can see there, you're going to go ahead and you're going to see the countries that are really going to be kind of landlocked. Now, the lecture here, early history. India's civilization is going to begin in the Indus Valley in about the 2500 BC. Aryans from the north of Iran invaded in about 1500 BC, and what we see is that they established a kingdom in the Ganges Plain. They're going to be pushed by the Dravidians to the south, then the Persians and the Greek later invade this valley. This valley right here, if I go back to the map again about India, this area right here, as you can see, there is a lot of gray around this area right here. You look at Saudi Arabia, you continue on into northern part of Africa, there is a lot of gray right here, and as you can see, India is very, very green, and they're kind of the first stop when people are trying to migrate looking for better land. Mauryan Empire unites India about 321 BC. The Asoka are going to spread Buddhism into this area. The Gupta Empire later rules northern India. Muslim Mughal Empire is going to reach India by about the 1500s, and this is where you're going to go ahead and you're going to start to see this continent kind of, I shouldn't say continent, this country kind of starting to split apart. By about the 1500s, French, the Dutch, the Portuguese, they're going to start building cloth and spice trades. You guys kind of remember what we had seen is that the Portuguese become really the dominant power going around the southern tip of Africa. It really reaches its highest point in about the 1500s. Now, the British East India Company controls India trade by about 1757. What's important to know about this is that this is why they do such a kind of a big push to get their navy going, is because Britain wants to protect the boats that are sailing, and again, the British East India Company being one of the most important ones, and they continue to bring England a lot of money because a lot of people are buying things. So what we see is that in 1757, the British are basically just going back and forth trading with India. But in 1857, the British are going to establish direct rule. And so what we see is that over the next 90-year period, you have the Raw. And what this is that this is when the British completely dominate and completely control this area. What we have is that we've got the British controlling India for about 200 years, but only 90 of that is Britain having direct control. A good example of this is in the United States. If you guys kind of remember back to the Boston Tea Party, Boston Massacre time, what we see is there's something called salutary neglect. England did not care one bit about the United States because we continued to bring in money. As soon as we started being a thorn in their side, that's when they have a little bit more direct control. It's the same thing here. For about 90 years of the Raw, you're going to see direct British control. This is going to anger a lot of the Indians. The one that's the most famous is going to be Gandhi. And Gandhi is going to strike what's known as nonviolent resistance. And what this is, and you guys kind of remember this from American history your freshman year, this is essentially trying to stop people from doing something, not by force, not trying to take an area over, but basically using kind of peaceful protesting, and again, trying to kind of show the countries what they're doing. Now, one of the things that India had that was really good and really helped them gain independence is that England is really, really kind of ruthless at this point. There's stories about Gandhi's nonviolent resistance, and they're not doing anything. They're just trying to walk to the sea to be able to collect salt and make salt. And the British officers are going to club them, are going to kill some people, and that looks absolutely horrible for Britain. And so what you see is that Britain really cannot continue to do this because you're seeing worldwide newspapers, radio broadcasts that basically are showing all of this problem. India does get their independence in 1947. That's a very important year right there. What the important part about that is that really India is going to go ahead and they're going to take advantage of Britain struggling after World War II. One thing that I always tell people is that World War II is going to end again about 1945, and what you see then is that 1946 Britain and is having trouble controlling their countries, their worldwide dominance. If you guys kind of remember, the sun never sets on the British Empire. So in 1947, that's when a lot of countries are going to try to leave Britain, and a lot of them are going to be successful. Again, 1947, 1948. Now, Muslim Pakistan. Okay, what we see is that Pakistan is going to break away from India. So if you kind of remember right here, India had controlled Pakistan, and Pakistan says we're going to go ahead and we're going to leave basically for our religious rights. This is going to start violence, migrations. Again, a lot of people are going to be unhappy about this. Now, what happens after India gains their independence? They're actually going to create a constitution. They're going to have a prime minister, Nehru. He's going to create a democratic republic in 1950. Again, their colonial rulers have prime ministers. They're going to have prime ministers. System is a federation of states, strong central government, much similar like the United States. You're also going to have a parliamentary system like the United Kingdom, again, because they're their colonial rulers. Now, most of India is going to be Hindu, but there's a large group, and again, there's 1 billion people in India, so there's a lot of people that are going to have different types of beliefs. But the Muslims are going to have a group there. You're also going to see the Sikh, also the Tamil are going to be minorities in this area. Interestingly enough, what the notes say here, the Sikh are going to kill Gandhi's daughter in 1984, and then the Tamils are going to assassinate her son in 1991. So as you can see, there's a long list of violence that's going on in India that a lot of people don't even really know about. Now, the biggest problem with India is that they have so many people. Again, 1 billion people, and what we see is that this area of land right here is not very big. You look at China and you say, okay, well, they've got 1 million or 1 billion people, and they're okay. Yes, they're okay. It's kind of a strain, but this is a large country. India, on the other hand, it's landlocked, people can't move, and so what you have to do is you got to figure out a way for people to live. India's economy is large, but half of its people are in poverty. One of the things that we'll look at, and we start kind of seeing different kind of countries, gross national product, gross domestic product, a lot of people in India live very, very well. But a lot of people in India also struggle too because there's just so many people. 2/3 of the people farm. Most of the farms are going to be small with low crop yield. A crop yield is how much you make. So what the notes are trying to say here is that they're just not producing that much. And again, to try and feed a billion people is going to be very difficult. So what India does is that they're going to try to get a land reform. More balanced distribution of land among farmers. Right now, 5% of the farm families own about 25% of the farm land. And so the idea is pretty simple. They want to go ahead and they want to distribute the land to the people because then they'll go ahead and they'll start farming more. They'll start farming better because they're making the money. It's not going to somebody else. Land reform does see little progress. However, after the famines of the 1960s, scientists say, let's don't worry so much about trying to get people to farm. What they want to do is that they want to do the green revolution. And this is very simple. Using science, they're going to go ahead and they're going to try to increase crop yield like wheat and rice. The more you do that, the more that you try to produce, that way you're going to be able to feed your families and you're going to feed the people of the world. Very, very difficult to do this. However, it does make sense. Again, there's only so much land in India, so instead of trying to produce more off of more of the land, they're going to try to produce more with the same amount of land. Now, growing industries, you do see a cotton textile industry, major product for a long period of time. Iron, steel, chemical, food industries all developed in the 1940s. You are going to see some kind of important areas. You're going to go ahead and see Calcutta is an important industry or industrial region. Ahmedabad is going to be another one. Madras is going to be important, and Delhi is going to be important. So all of these are very good, rich, growing industries in the textiles. Also, you're going to go ahead and you're going to see Mumbai, which is Bombay. Now, I want to stop and make sure everybody kind of understands Mumbai, Bombay. What's the difference right here between those two? That is the exact same city. What the difference is that Bombay was the name that the Europeans gave because what they tried to do is they tried to translate the actual city's name into English, and that's where we come up with Bombay. So if you're going to go ahead and you're going to go to India, make sure that you call it Mumbai because that's actually its real name. But Mumbai is going to be India's most prosperous city, commercial center which produces metals, chemicals, electronics, but Bangalore is going to be the high-tech center, and this is going to be the home of software companies and other types of industries as well. Now, what's the daily life like in India? Most Indians have a male-dominated culture. They also have arranged marriages. The diet is going to be very much of rice. What you're going to see is that they've actually believed that the cows are going to be sacred, so you're not going to see hamburger or anything like that. Meat is going to be in the curry dishes, but again, it's going to be limited by your religious beliefs. Sports include soccer, field hockey, and cricket. And one of the things that we want to look at is that all of those are going to originate in England, and they kind of continue on to India. Classical musics, they are going to use a lot of have a lot of classical music. They also have a large film industry in Mumbai. A lot of people say, have we ever heard of any movies that could possibly be in Mumbai? Probably not. I do know that there was a guy from Wahoo that actually went out to Mumbai and became very big in the film industry there, but most of the time you're not going to see anything outside of Hollywood, and Mumbai does produce movies, you just probably haven't seen very many of them. Education, India economy is changing more and more. People are starting to work in the factories and offices. Education is the key. One thing on any test, any quiz that you ever see with me, anytime you see the question, what is the key is always education. Most middle-class kids go to school. Literacy rate has steadily risen since the 1950s. However, in the slums and rural areas, school attendance and literacy rate is still low, and it's kind of, again, going back to the gross national product, gross domestic product, it's kind of the have and the have-nots. It's either very, very rich or very poor. Now, a lot of different languages. Constitution recognizes 18 major languages. The United States, of course, we recognize none. But India has about 1,000 different languages, dialects. Hindi is the official language. However, English is going to be the most widely used by the government, businesses, and again, that goes back to the effects of that colonialism and the mother country of England. Southern India is a distinct Dravidian subregion in language and ethnicity. What you're going to see is that there's a bunch of different languages that kind of go back to the Dravidian that basically, again, kind of becomes regionalized right there. Hinduism, if you think of India, you got to think of Hinduism, and Hinduism, you got to think of India. They're kind of connected. 80% of Indians are going to be Hindu. Complex Aryan religion includes many gods. Again, that would be polytheism. Reincarnation is the rebirth of the soul after birth. One of the things that's important in this caste system, and you can kind of see the social classes right there. At the very top, you got the priests and the scholars. After them, you've got the rulers and the warriors. Underneath them are the farmers and the merchants, and below them are the artists and the laborers. After you kind of get outside the caste system, you're going to have the untouchables. They're the lowest status. They're outside the caste system. Now, what's important about this is that they all believe in reincarnation or rebirth of the soul after death. And so what happens is that all of these people are in the caste system, but in the caste system you have to respect each other. So for example, if a priest or a scholar is really bad, or they do something horribly bad to one of the untouchables, then what happens is that when they're reincarnated, they might be reincarnated as an untouchable. So what you see is that you have a moral duty, and only reincarnation can change the caste system. You can change it a little bit through marriage, but that's very difficult. Usually what you're born in is basically what you'll die in. And one of the things around other religions and other countries is people really want to have India get rid of the caste system because they don't think that it's fair at all. The last slide here, India's other faiths includes Jainism, Christianity, Sikhism, and Buddhism. Buddhism originated in northern India, but Islam is still strong in certain parts of India. Millions of Muslims left right after that 1947 independence, and they're going to move into the northwest and also the northeast. And we'll talk more about that in the next section when we start talking about Bangladesh and other countries in that area. This completes chapter 25, section 1. Please make sure that you complete the assessments at this time.